welcome to Pod and Long. I am your host, Ryan. It is great to have you with us. I'm here with my co-hosts, Megastar Mark and Drew. What's up, everybody?
Hey, kids. Hey, how's everybody doing? And guys, we're rocking out with a new sponsorship today. According to Ryan, I can see it right behind him. Bud Light, welcome aboard. Pod and... Oh, is that a cutout? What is that?
It's a sponsor.
Oh, okay, good. Excellent. Perfect.
It's a sponsor.
That's awesome. That is just tremendous.
We're doing big things.
So good.
It's great. It's so good.
It occurs to me that I need to come up with a nickname for myself because
you do.
Megastar Mark and then Drew. Like, I don't know if anybody's into death metal or whatever, but you know the band Behemoth?
Yeah.
If you follow the band Behemoth, there's four dudes in the band. Three of them are named like Nergal and Stormbreaker and whatever, and then their drummer's name is just Seth. Which, like, I understand that it's actually Set. It's supposed to be like the Egyptian god of destruction or storms or whatever, but it just sounds like three death metal dudes and a dude who answered an ad in the paper for a drummer. So I gotta come up with a nickname for myself.
Yeah, you need one. I was gonna go with the Professor, but I think that's been taken.
Oh,
John Clayton,
the
may he rest in
Professor.
peace.
Yeah,
Yes,
John
that's
Clayton.
right.
Yeah. Yes. Work on that. We need a double D. We need a. Is that what we need?
Oh my.
Oh my. Maybe we could do that. Oh my. It's Drew Schiavi. Welcome, gentlemen. I just want to take a moment. Can you excuse me? I'm talking to America right now.
Okay.
It's Pod and Long. We're here. That was an excellent moment. Did you see that?
No, what do you
You didn't see that? Oh my God. You didn't see
What?
this? Hold on, I'll play it.
Second down. That is the best line I've ever heard out of an official. We'll get to the penalty in a minute. He just told Geno
Oh,
Smith.
yes, I did hear. Yeah, excuse me, I'm talking to America. All right, I'm with you.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me. It's a 10-yard penalty.
Talking to America here, excuse me.
Love that.
Okay, it's week 2 of the NFL. I'm going to start. We have some questions to answer, I guess. I'm going to start with this. We've got our categories. We've got USFL and XFL are merging. We've got Strike
The news.
Spiral. We've got Sad Boy Boat. We've got a lot of things coming up. But first, I want to answer some questions with these categories. First category, best team in the NFL? The Cowboys. Put a hurting on the New York Jets. 70-10 in the last 2 weeks for the fighting Cowboys against New York teams. 70 points to 10 points. The Jets did not look like they had solved their quarterback problem. Let's just put it that way. Are the Cowboys the best team in the NFL right now in week 2?
I mean, they're up there. I think they have the
Okay.
highest point differential by like a substantial margin. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely in. I would put them top 5 for sure.
Okay.
I do think the Niners are a better squad, but they're definitely up there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anybody. There's nobody who stands out to me as like definitively better than the Cowboys, but the Cowboys also don't strike me as definitively better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Good way to
think
put
I'm in the same. I think I'm in the same camp as Mark. I think the Cowboys are probably a top 3 team today, but I don't know that I would automatically by default put them at 1.
Yeah, Micah Parsons is an absolute
He's
monster.
unbelievable.
I mean, the start of this year is amazing, and that's a good. That division. We'll talk about it. That division is a lot. I'm surprised at how good it is.
Seems like you guys aren't thinking they're a top team, even though they've crushed both New York teams. Is that a New York bias? Do you have a New York bias right now?
Yeah, I'm East Coast.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, they're. It's not that they're not the number 1 team. It's just that I can't unilaterally make them the number 1 team.
I'm giving them props. It's just there's plenty of season left to go, baby. I mean,
Okay.
They're not better than Mark's Rams.
Mark's Rams.
My boys.
The fighting Rams. The fighting
Yeah.
Marks.
Yep.
We'll talk
When we
about
get to
the
Greg
Rams.
Bet, I'm going to talk about my favorite bet of this upcoming week.
Okay, we will have Greg's bets.
Involves
We
them.
also Rams have their own special category. 49ers are also probably the NFL's best team, but
Mhm.
they're part of that category. So best team in the NFL, Dolphins. Make a nightmare for Bill Belichick and the Patriots on Sunday night.
Yeah.
And they didn't even play that well, if you ask me. I mean, they had some rough going there.
Did this game teach us more about the Dolphins or the Patriots?
Honestly, I think that's a good
Or
question.
both?
Yeah. First off, kind of digging old man Belichick. Where he
What?
threw the flag down
The
and
thing
he
where
was
he throws
acting
the
all
flag
grumpy.
is priceless.
It was so good.
His hoodie has like 12 pockets, and of course he keeps it in his fucking sock. So,
Slams the red flag down.
I kind of like that he's like the last vestige of this once proud kingdom, and he's just kind of hanging on. And I don't know, like I'll always hate him.
Yeah.
But that defiant flag throw really won me over.
He
So-
seemed so old in that moment.
I know.
So what you're telling me is Belichick is Caligula? Is that what I'm getting out of this?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
I just took a drink of Bud Light, Drew. Jesus.
Careful.
Yeah.
You don't want to spit Bud Light on the ground.
No.
Ah,
Invite him to any dinner parties.
just the just the disgruntled
Yeah.
the throwdown after pulling it out of the sock. Like those two things together. It'd be one thing. It'd be one funny moment if he had just slammed it down. But the
Mhm.
pulling of the sock really made it special.
There are two memorable moments involving socks in the NFL, and the other one involves Terrell Owens, who is like the exact antithesis of Bill
Yes.
Belichick.
Yes.
So I appreciate that we've seen both polarities of this.
Dolphins look great. I mean, they did. I mean, they
Played better
won a game.
defense and ran the ball. So
Yep, they did play much better defense, which was helpful. Not that much better, but still better than the week before. You still allowed Mac Jones to cut you up. That's a little concerning. So,
true. But I mean, Mac Jones had like two good passes. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Let's look at
right.
that. If we're going to talk about it from the opposite side,
mm.
Patriots
Tell you what I was-
offense still doesn't look right.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I was surprised by though. Belichick, I thought was going to blitz the hell out of Tua, and they really didn't. He kind of held off. A little surprised at that. I thought that was going to be a very Belichick thing to try to go for the jugular, literally. So, but didn't see it.
Yeah. Tua had threw a really bad pass too on that one deep shot he took.
Mm.
They only threw like one deep pass and it did not look good and it got picked off.
Yeah.
But Mike McDaniel has Belichick's number and it's kind of funny to me.
By the way,
He does.
the Mike McDaniel run the ball the next 5 plays looking into the camera, that's like
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel's starting to win me over.
Yeah.
I'm not where you guys are with Mike McDaniel, but he's
Oh my
starting
God.
to win me over.
I like when he was leaving the field at halftime, saw the camera and ran away.
He
That
tried to
was-
beat the cameraman in a race. Yeah.
That was funny.
His interview was bizarre too. It was just like
He's a
Yeah.
weird guy.
just everything he says is weird. I'm also obsessed with I don't know if you know the stand-up comedian Dan Soder. Apparently he's childhood best friends with McDaniel and is now become like the McDaniel storyteller. Every podcast he goes on, they ask him about McDaniel and their childhood together. And the one story that just took it over the edge for me is he said that they were in 7th grade together and they lived in Colorado and Mike McDaniel was a ball boy. I think that's how he got hooked up with Shanahan.
Yeah.
He was a ball boy for the Broncos. And they would play Madden against each other. And McDaniel would play as whatever team Deion Sanders was on at the time. I forget. Probably the Cowboys. And he would intercept this comedian and run it back and just stare at him, not look at the screen, just stare at him and go, prime time, prime time. The entire interception run.
See, as we're talking about confessional podcasts, this is a question mostly for Mark. Do you think this comedian or McDaniel has ever referred to one or the other as a beaver tooth motherfucker? And is this going to come back? Like, these are the stories I want to hear.
I feel like the comedian would refer to him as a beaver tooth.
As a
motherfucker.
beaver tooth motherfucker,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Oh my God.
God damn.
All right. Moving on. Category. What? The Titans beat the Chargers. What happened here?
All right.
The
I made
Titans
a promise to somebody who's listening
Okay.
that I
Thank
wouldn't
you.
rip the Chargers too bad this week.
Oh, right.
And I'm
yes.
not going to rip the Chargers because I feel like the Chargers themselves are playing competent football.
Okay.
Their head coach has got to go. This is absolutely overdue. This guy is holding this team back more than any coach I can think of recently. I'm trying to think, has there been a coach who is so obviously like over his head and is just keeping a team down in recent? You got Drew?
Art Shell the second time.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
I have a guess. Matt Rule.
Don't worry, we'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad
I'm
he's
just
back.
saying, like, this team should not be struggling the way they are. They put
No.
up 50 plus points, didn't turn the ball over. They're 0-2. I mean, like, and that is, no matter what people say, like, oh, it's not a death sentence. It kind of is. Like, out of the last, like, what is it? It was, I forgot what it was, like 1 out of 25 teams who start 0-2 actually make the playoffs. That's ridiculous. Like, you're not going to make it, Chargers, now because your head coach keeps making dumbass decisions. Like calling a timeout on 3rd down to let Derrick Henry back in the game to get you on to get a first down. What the hell was that?
I thought it was weird. They had, would they have 2 timeouts and they were in the red zone and they needed a field goal to tie, but a touchdown to win.
Mm-hmm.
And they somehow blundered it so badly they had to kick a field goal. Like they were on like the 5-yard line with multiple timeouts and it was first down and goal. And they had several false starts. I think that's the thing about Staley this week is like there was a couple of awful penalties that cost them this game, I think. And that's on the head coach. Like there's a personal foul at one point by Derwin James, I think, and then there was several false starts when they desperately did not need a penalty. Like that killed them. And
that's what I'm saying. It's not the players. The players are, I mean, they are making stupid moves, but it's because their coaching's not there. You know, Herbert, once again, had another very good game. There's only, we talk about it often on this podcast, there's only about 7 franchise quarterbacks in the league, and he's one of them. And I don't think there's any doubt that he's one of them. And he can't keep doing this by himself. I think there are issues to Herbert's game. I don't know if he's got that killer instinct, but at the same time, his team should still be a playoff team, and it's not.
There's
Right.
I'm of 2 minds with the Chargers, which is one like so to tell a story. The last season the Raiders were culturally relevant was that year that they went whatever it was 11-5 or 12-4 with Carr at the helm, and then he breaks his leg in the last game of the year, and they lose to Houston in the wild card game. And then the Raiders regressed the next year because of those 12 wins or 11, whatever it was, like 8 of them were 1-score games, right? So you flip that coin the other way the next year, and there it is. The Chargers, same thing. They went 10-7 last year, but like 7 or 8 of those wins were by a touchdown or less. So you flip that coin, they're going to regress a few games. But then I also remember this is the same team last year that got outcoached by the Raiders interim coach, who was basically looking across the sideline going, like,
One of my
we can both get into
favorite
the
moments.
we can both get into the playoffs if we agree to do nothing right here. And the Chargers were like, hell no, man.
Time out. What?
Okay, that's how you want it.
Up there with the Jacoby Myers throw to Mac Jones.
Oh my
or
God.
Ezekiel Elliott being sent into the shadow realm.
3 of
His
the
last
top
play.
moments.
That is one of my top moments in football. I love that the Raiders gave him an out and Chargers are like, we're not going out that way.
No, the Chargers looked across the sideline and told the Raiders, "You got the juice now, man."
It's so stupid. I've been irrationally
God.
angry a lot at football. That night I was really pissed. Oh God.
Well,
They gotta
Killer
fire
Greg.
that guy. They gotta fire this guy.
Yeah, they got to fire him.
Yep.
First coach fired. Is it him or is there any other candidate?
The Bears coach.
I was
Is
just
anyone
going to
even
say the
close?
coach of the Bears.
Yeah.
But you suck anyway. Like, what
But
were you
But the
expecting?
problem is nobody in the Bears building thinks the Bears suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were making a joke that nobody in the Bears building can figure out who Matt Eberflus even is because he's the most generic looking human that's an NFL coach. And nobody can find him. He's just hiding in closets on Monday morning after the games.
I was telling this to Ryan before we went on the air, and it was a mind-boggling stat. Eberflus has the lowest win percentage of any Bears coach ever, and I want you to appreciate the gravitas of that statement.
My God.
Like, that is
Oh my God.
shockingly horrible.
Who's the worst Bears coach? Is it Dick Geron?
Oh, he sucked. He had that 1 year. He was 13-3.
Boy,
Who's
Dave
the
Coach of the year, and then
Wannstedt had- he was
there for a while.
yeah.
But he was spicy a little. Like they were never great, but he was spicy.
Oh,
right?
man. They had some just. Wasn't
Let's
Nagy
see.
a coach there for a
Oh.
while?
I want to go through the list.
They also had that guy from Canada, right?
Oh, Tressman.
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 In the brief, like, hey,
Mark
we paid Josh
Tressman.
McCown a lot of money era.
Right.
Let's look at this list here real quick. We've got Matt Nagy, John Fox on his
Oh
deathbed.
God.
That
Right.
was bad.
Oh, I like John Fox so much.
I do too. I mean, I love John Fox.
Right.
He was a
Fox,
Panthers
yeah.
coach. He was great. Let's see. John Fox was really fucking bad. His winning percentage was 291.
It's worse than that. Like,
Plus,
think
like
about
you know that the Bears, especially in the city of Chicago, the Bears go back long enough that I'm sure they had some coach for half a year named like Irish John Murphy or whatever, and clearly that guy was better than.
yes, it's amazing. And Justin Fields, like, I mean, Drew, I think you
He's
were
not
calling the Bears hate and the Fields hate early on.
He's not good.
No, he's not, man. I don't know if we want to talk about the Bears
Yeah.
now, but I feel like it's a good time
we'll
to
get
do
to
it.
their category. We'll
All
get
right,
to their
all right.
category. Let's really quickly touch on the Titans and how Kelly Greg must be happy because what the hell happened here? They actually look like a competent team.
Well,
Fine.
Ryan Tannehill balled out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
still
was
had
good.
it
He
in him.
ran for a touchdown.
Touchdown.
yeah.
And not a short one.
No, it was a
Shades
nice
of
run.
Texas A&M.
I'm pretty sure he has an artificial hip.
He's got a cane somewhere in his locker. He's hiding it.
Listen, they can make serious noise in that division. They really can. I mean, the
Yeah.
Colts and Texans are both very flawed. The Jaguars, I mean, granted, they played the Chiefs, but
They did not look
the
good.
team I thought they were, at least not the offense I thought it was going to be at least 2 games in. They still have a shot at this. I mean, they're
Yeah.
always going to play tough defense. Derrick Henry's always amazing. If Ryan Tannehill can just manage a game, and they have, DeAndre Hopkins now, I think they got a real shot.
All right, moving on to the next category. The category, there's a lot of categories this week. It's we tanking? The Giants beat the Cardinals.
Oh,
When the
man.
Cardinals
It's
remembered,
incredible.
we're trying to tank here.
Wow.
What happened in this
So,
game? The
real quick.
Cardinals looked like Super Bowl champions for 3 quarters, and then it all fell apart.
My wife was up by 62 points in her fantasy league. And then
Oh, boy.
Daniel Jones played, and she had to watch every single touchdown and get angrier and angrier and angrier. She lost.
Oh,
Daniel Jones dropped in 47 points in fantasy.
she lost a 62-point lead in fantasy.
Yep, it was bad. He had other people too, but like still, when you have like 2 left and one of them is Daniel Jones, you think you got it.
Especially after 3 quarters, which was
Yes,
horrible.
Right.
The Cardinals, it's almost like the Bidwells radio down at the sideline. Like, excuse me, what the fuck are you doing?
But it only makes it all the worse because Caleb Williams' dad was already suspicious of the Cardinals, and then for a minute he was for 3 quarters he was probably like, you know what, maybe this
Okay.
wouldn't be so bad. And then at the end of the game, he's like, my son will never play for the Cardinals.
Caleb Williams' dad.
Yeah, where does this rank on the Caleb Williams dad meter?
He's a new character on the show now. Every week we have to check in with him.
How's he doing? How angry is he? It's so
You're going back to
weird.
school, son.
It's so weird that the top 5 of the draft could be like Arizona, Chicago, Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, that could be it.
That might be it.
It's amazing.
Maybe one of these teams will get better. Probably not.
Man,
This
can
was
you
wild.
imagine-
And the other wild thing to me is like I have Giants fans, a lot of Giants fans, of course, because I live in this area. in the Giant area, but they're texting me like, "Yeah, man! Like you beat the Cardinals.
Yeah.
You had to have an epic comeback to beat the Cardinals.
Mhm.
The Cardinals are actively trying to lose. I don't know if you knew that."
You know, I'm gonna give him some. I'm gonna give the Cardinals some credit. Connor looked very good in this game.
He did. He played well.
Mhm.
Dobbs, this is the first time I kind of got to watch him. He's not bad. He's
Not. You can see
know-
why he keeps getting chances.
right. There's definitely some zaniness to him.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did. It was kind of interesting to watch that side of them because, like I said, we just don't see a lot of Cardinal stuff nationally. But you know, props to the Giants. They pulled it out when it needed to. That was good. That was great.
They did. I mean, you got to give them credit for making that comeback. But
At one
still,
point,
come on.
I really thought Daboll was going to have a heart attack on the sidelines because it's something he was yelling at with the ref, and like I almost wanted to like, who do I call in this one? Like somebody needs to stop him.
Can I call the EMS?
Right, Tata.
We made a joke. We made a joke about Daboll going to bar and then ordering 14 Miller Lights and drinking them in succession, and then they made the comeback. And then we made the next joke was he still orders 14 Miller Lights.
Say,
and
nothing changes.
Nothing changes. He's just happy now.
It's just like, you know, whether they win or lose, if the Montreal Canadiens play in the Stanley Cup, the city of Montreal will be on fire at the conclusion of the series, regardless of outcome.
Yes.
I've always said too, like, you know, the nice thing is he's watching his weight. He's doing Miller Light, not Miller, just Miller
Exactly.
Light. You
Yeah,
got to
right.
be conscious of yourself. You know, he's over 40.
Well, see, I was going to say, like, now, you know, after the comeback, a free round of drinks for everybody at bar, but then I realized that's him probably buying, like, one additional drink because
that's
there's
him and
nobody
Tina.
else at bar. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Him, Tina,
Just him
and the
and Tina,
bartender, who
because he
might
scared
also-
everyone away in the first half. Like,
Yeah.
Get out, everybody.
Tina might be the bartender. We haven't fleshed out this story. She might be the waitress there.
It's
She's
also
gotta
entirely
be.
possible that this is the kind of place where, like, because he's the lone patron, like, the bartender just kind of sits back on his phone and Daboll goes around the bar and gets his own beers.
Yes, the townie. Yes, good one. And he gets on his jet ski.
It's in the bar. It's
Very
just sitting
quick.
over by the
Yeah.
dartboard.
Yeah.
It's docked right outside. He's ready to go.
I was looking at my mind when he gets on it. He's like the water's up to his knees. He just butts away.
Oh God, Dayball.
We
Well,
love you,
good
Dayball.
for you. Good for you, Giants. You got to win
Yes,
here when
right.
you shouldn't have. Good for you, Cardinals. Tank is still on. Tank is still on. Oh, this category is called Frauds Exposed. The Vikings, maybe the ultimate fraud of the NFL,
Oh, my
lose
God.
to the Eagles on Thursday Night Football.
To touch on what Drew said when he was discussing the Raiders, I mean,
Yeah.
1-score games. Talk about 1-point games for the Vikings last year. I mean, this is. I think a lot of people saw this one coming.
They did not look good in this game, despite the fact that they only lost by a touchdown. Still did not look competent at all.
No.
The most entertaining part of this game, of course, was the dust up between Brown and Hurts on the sideline that the coach says he wasn't paying attention to, even though he was the one who broke it up.
Hmm.
And first of all, I can't wait for Brown to make the tearful "That's my quarterback" video.
Ah.
And second of all, in the post-game press conference, somebody asked Sirianni what that conversation on the sideline was about, and he said something along the lines of, this was the only part that was interesting to me. He said, the conversations we have on the sideline will remain private. The conversations we have in the locker room will also remain private. And I was like, bro, nobody asked you about the conversation in the locker room.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah,
brought that
you've-
up except you. So
You've
what
now
happened?
outed yourself.
Right. So, like, what happened afterwards that we didn't know about that now we kind of do?
Oh,
Good point.
spicy. I kind of like that coach because there was a story that came out about his last season when they got the bye, and he like really wanted his assistant coaches to have beers in his backyard, like high school football style. Like you win a game and you have some beers in the backyard and talk about the game. So he did that during his bye week. He was very excited about that. Like, okay, that fits. I like
That's
it.
fun.
Yeah, but this team, Eagles are 2-0, the most flawed of a 2-0 team, I think. They do not look right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fighting in the locker room. That's not good.
Yep. Got to reserve judgment though, because like I said, it's so early on, and they did not. Out of all the teams that a lot of teams didn't play a lot in the preseason. I don't think the Eagles played anybody.
No.
So working it out. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they play like, a Niners or a Cowboys and see how that affects them.
I also appreciated the coaching here where they were like, we are a mess. Let's just run it down their goddamn throats.
Right.
And
right.
they can't stop. They won't be able to. It's the Vikings. They can't stop us. We'll just run it every play. Who cares? And that
the
worked.
Vikings are severely lacking. I think they are underestimated how much losing Dalvin Cook meant.
Yes.
Because like just on the
They
field
have
and
no
off the
running
field. Yeah. Like he was such a leader for them. And then they just so like flippantly got rid of him,
Yeah, and Madison didn't play well in this game, but man, the racist stuff that he was getting, like that was ugly too. Like
Whoa.
he was getting. You didn't hear about that?
No, I
Alexander
didn't hear
Madison,
about this.
he fumbled, which is a funny fantasy story, which I'll say in a second. But yeah, he fumbled on like his first carry, and people were saying racist shit to him online and stuff.
Fuck those people.
And like he's like, I'm just a guy. Like I'm a normal human
Yeah.
being. Like I had a bad day at work. That's not fair. But so that sucks. But I spent the whole day thinking about Alexander Madison on that Thursday, going, do I play this guy in this really bad matchup or do I not?
Mm-hmm.
I came to the decision, I'll probably bench him, but I never did. I forgot. And I got home late that night. I was working late and I got home and I turned the game on and the very first thing I saw was him fumble. The very first thing. And I was like, well, God damn it. I deserve that. I deserve that. But yeah, the Vikings look terrible. I mean, other than Justin Jefferson, they look bad.
Kirk looked okay for Kirk.
I guess, but he always looks good in garbage time.
Oh, that's his money time.
He looks great. Remember the cousin zone from last year?
Right.
Once he gets in the
that's
cousin
right.
zone,
I forgot about the cousin zone. Right. When you're down by 3 touchdowns.
When you're down by 2 or 3 touchdowns,
Right.
who cares? He
It's
looks
Cousins
great.
time.
It's cousin zone time, and that's what he did. He got him back within a score, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Vikings fraud exposed. Commanders take out the Broncos. Sean Payton fraud exposed here.
Oh.
Wow.
One of the games
Another like first half
happy.
looks awesome, second half terrible.
I loved this. Also, Commanders, I'm on. They're scrappy. I like the Commanders. I like Sam Howell. I like his competitiveness. I like Riverboat Ron back at it. Like I kind of dig this. The defensive line, that front seven, so
It's scary.
They're healthy. They're
Holy
dangerous.
Shit, really, really good. They deserve to win this game. And the Broncos, as usual, were overconfident when they got up by a couple scores and then couldn't get it back together because Sean Payton is not a good coach. Sorry.
Referring specifically to the Commanders, it's amazing what can happen to a team when you don't have a prominent figure in your franchise hurling racial slurs down the hallway every 45 minutes.
There's nothing worse than in life when you have a bad boss. Can you imagine?
Oh my God.
There's nothing worse. Like you can have a bad like coworker that's on your level or below you. You can survive that, but if you have a bad boss, oh my God, you're screwed.
Yeah, this is our boss. He's got a lot of money and owns the team, and that's why he gets away with calling people sugar lips. You just got to roll with it.
Right.
Oh my God. Good for the Commanders.
Yeah, absolutely. The Commanders are off to a great start. There's a lot to like about that team. You know, the run game was phenomenal. The receivers, they were excellent. I think if I had to pick nitpick, not even nitpick anything, but it's unfortunate they lost Logan Thomas because once again another cheap shot by that Denver safety who seems to be making a career out of that. Yeah,
and Sean Payton's teams have never had a problem with bounties and dirty play.
Just the way the Broncos lost too. Didn't they score to they needed a 2-point conversion to win it and they didn't make the 2-point conversion?
Right.
And then failed in the 2-point conversion.
Yes. What a way to lose. Yeah. What a way to lose, Broncos. You found a new way.
Sean Payton, like the whole offseason where he went off on Nathaniel Hackett of all people, and then everything he said and did was like, I'm smarter than everybody in the room. And I love the fact that they started 0-2. I love hating this team. Like
the fact that him kicking a dead animal of Hackett.
Yeah. Right.
Like, of course he's
don't make fun of Hackett.
He's making fun of him. Everybody else can do that.
He pretty much was our unofficial mascot of season 1.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I don't like anybody. It's like you can't pick on nobody can pick on your
Right.
little brother other than you.
Yes.
So it's like
Only
that.
we can make fun of
Yes,
Hackett.
Right. It's okay, Hackett. Here's your Etch-a-Sketch. Draw us up a play.
Oh my god! I think the unfortunately, all Broncos in the positive. Russell Wilson's throwing it around. He scored some touchdowns. He's going to eclipse that bathrooms number
I don't like
real
that.
quick this
I
year.
don't like that.
I don't
What's he
like
up
that
to,
at
like,
all. He's up
4?
to 6 or
6?
7, I think, isn't he?
Wow.
Maybe
Well, did he buy
5.
another property? Did he buy another
Oh.
property in the interim?
Oh,
Like, is the total
we need to check
aggregate
in.
of bathrooms gone up?
Right. Good
Maybe.
point.
Maybe. All right, this category is these guys. The Falcons moved to 2-0. What a weird game.
Lots
Good
to
for
like
them.
there. Yeah. Lots to like. Bijan. Oh my God.
He's
great.
fantastic.
He is
Their
so
defense
good.
is good. Bijan's
Yes.
good. Desmond Ritter. Oh boy.
Better than he was in week 1.
Yes. He
Sure.
Definitely had more than 24 yards on his 8 completions.
He had
Drake London
one.
showed up finally. So that
That's
was
right.
nice. Yep.
Kyle Pitts is still missing in action.
Yep.
There was one series in the red zone. I can't remember exactly where it fell, but he threw maybe the 5 worst passes I've ever seen in my life in a red zone. And I think he was only bailed out by a penalty and then got one where I forget who the player was. I think he was a former Raider. Jumped like Dwight Clark style, had to get it at the back of the end zone to score. But the previous 4 or 5 passes were hideous. But
I mean,
he made some good throws. And they won. Now, like he was good enough to win. But boy, oh boy,
Is for a bunch of different reasons, and obviously not to the same magnitude, is Ritter setting himself up to be the new Tebow? Where like he doesn't seem very good, but he keeps winning games and it
Yeah.
ties everyone in knots trying to judge whether he's good or not. Because
Yeah.
I'm here for that if that happens.
oh, absolutely. I was about to say, like, it will eventually backfire, but I like that it hasn't yet. So I'm there for it. Good for them.
It had its moments of ugliness. Like, oh boy, what is this? But then he made some nice throws. I mean, you have to give him
He did.
credit. He had a rushing touchdown. Like he made some nice throws. I don't know what the hell happened to this Packers team. They still looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They only had like 32 plays or something like that. They weren't on the field. That was the problem. They couldn't get off the field
Good
on
defense, though.
but-
Like Falcons, like I said, everyone's talking about
Yeah.
that offensive, grouping, but man, that defense is good too. So they drew up a great game plan.
They did, and they spent a lot of money on this defense. Like
Yeah.
people low key spent a lot of money on the defense.
I think the Packers will rebound. I do.
Yeah.
I Jordan Love, I think in itself looked pretty good. So I mean, I'm pretty
Yeah.
confident they're going to be okay. But sometimes you get these games.
I don't think it was his fault,
No.
but yeah, Falcons are 2-0. Wow,
Love it.
the Buccaneers are 2-0,
A biker
Which is-
bike.
which is shocking, except for the fact that they were playing the Bears,
I know, right?
who may be the worst team in the NFL
The
now.
floating extra bye week of the Chicago Bears.
What in the world?
My opinion of the Bears notwithstanding, to me the takeaway in this game was the further anecdotal evidence on Mike Evans' Hall of Fame resume. Because he has officially now been a top wide receiver in the league with the likes of course, Tom Brady, but also Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston. So
He was awesome in this game. There are games where he looks hideous, like last week where he drops that red zone score, and then this week he just unstoppable.
Yeah.
and oh, by the way, add Johnny Manziel to that list.
Oh my god!
This guy has spent most of his life with awful quarterbacks and made them look really good.
Any grouping that involves famous Jameis and Johnny Manziel.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Yeah, the Bucks are 2-0.
God,
How about
he's
that?
caught touchdown passes from multiple number 1 overall picks.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yes.
God. Which one says something for his longevity, and 2 says something about those number 1
Yeah,
overall
right.
Yeah,
picks.
kind of rough. Yeah, a little bit of a rough number 1 pick sitch. Yeah, but the Bears.
There's
The interception on the goal line was maybe the worst play of the last 2 weeks
Well,
I've
the
seen.
nice thing is the Bucks got to see it 3 times in a row because the Bears ran the same play 3 times in a row. What the hell were they thinking?
Nobody will expect it the third time.
Yeah, right.
They'll never guess this.
Like no coach at any level of football that I'm familiar with, I think, has ever done this. I'm sure it's happened, but like you go for the fake punt or whatever, and some holding penalty gets it called back. I would go for the fake punt again. No one expects you to run it twice.
True.
Oh my God. All right. Next category is Mark versus Drew. Where are you? That way. The Bills and the Raiders. They had a game. Now, before you get into your specific teams, this is how it played out for me on NFL Red Zone. Jimmy Garoppolo comes down the field. He looks good. There's a nice touchdown pass. Raiders are up 7-0. Don't see anything for a long time. Get several clips of Josh Allen scoring. Still see nothing from the Raiders. Absolutely nothing on Red Zone. Not a thing. And then the game was over. That's it. It was 4 plays that I saw. That was it.
Nothing
Go
happened.
ahead.
Nothing
What happened in this game?
You know what, Mark? You won. I'll allow you to go first.
There's just 2 things I want to touch on. All right.
Okay.
And so this is how I've been begging the Bills to play offense for
They
the
did
last
it.
4 years. Is run the ball, establish the run, even if it's not because the Raiders did a wonderful job of stopping that run game in the first half. They really clamped down on it, but the Bills kept at it, and against Dorsey's better judgment, I'm sure somebody had to zap him with a cattle prod every time he called that 80-yard bomb, because they just stuck to the run, and eventually it wore him down, and Allen was able to go over the middle with a lot of short intermediate routes. That's what I've wanted. That's all I've wanted. And I feel like they're not going to do it again. I feel like this was like, Dorsey's going to be like, fine, I did it your way. Time to go back to the fucking 80-yard bombs next game. So I was happy to at least see it for one game. And then I want to touch on Allen real quick. So this is going to be like the nerdiest thing I've said on this podcast. And I think Drew's the only one who's going to get this reference. I figured out who Josh Allen reminds me of. He reminds me of Gladiator from Marvel. From the Marvel universe. And Drew's laughing because he knows where I'm going with it.
He doesn't have the mohawk, though.
He doesn't have the mohawk. But okay, so Ryan, Gladiator's powers. He's basically Superman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But the more he believes in himself, the stronger he is. And when he starts having self-doubt, he becomes weaker. And that is so Josh Allen. When he gets a modicum of doubt in him, if he throws an interception or somebody starts messing with him, he's like that entire game. When he gets 1 touchdown under his belt and things are going his way, you might as well throw the game because you're not going to beat him. Like when he gets in that mindset, he's tough, but he gets shaken out of that mindset very often. One of the things too, when I was watching the replay of it, one of the most terrifying things I can think of to see just in the NFL is a Josh Allen free play. Because God knows what's going to happen on that play. Because he plays with reckless abandonment when there are consequences. Like when there's not, imagine what that man does. Because I watched him do something insane in that one as well. But I'm happy with how the Bills rebounded. I hope they continue.
Okay. Drew?
Nothing happened in that game that I didn't think was going to happen in that game.
Okay. It just went to script for you. The NFL script writers, they had it.
Yes, and like I have, obviously Mark, and I have a few Bills fan friends at work, and they were all like, "Oh, but the Bills look so shitty against the Jets, and it's all going to come to a head." And I was like, "Don't underestimate how bad the Raiders truly are." And I was like, I told Mark, I told everybody, I was like, "You will win by 3 touchdowns," and it turned out to be 4. Even I underestimated how bad the Raiders really are. But, again, if there's one statistic worth tracking for me, for the Raiders, it's turnovers forced. And for the second consecutive week, that number was 0. And you're not going to win a lot of games that way, especially if you cough it up a couple of times. They're not good. This is why I advocated don't sign Josh Jacobs to a long-term contract. Now, I grant the Raiders O-line is not very good, but stat I saw today, since the NFL merger, Josh Jacobs is the only running back to be held to negative yards in a game. Sorry, let me clarify that. The only returning rushing champion to be held to negative yards in a game.
Oh,
like they're not a good team. It's fine. Call it what it is. Like I said, I am a Raiders fan, and going into that game, aside from Max Crosby and Wilson, who they just drafted number 7th overall. I'm not sure I can name another starter on their defense. And I watched that whole game, and I'm still not sure I can name another starter on their defense. And Divine Diablo keeps popping up because he can make some good. He is an excellent tackler, but the problem is he only makes tackles after he's been beaten by a running back. He's assigned to the tight end or running back in the flat or whatever, and that dude catches the ball and gets by him, and then he chases him down and tackles him. So there's some admirable ability there, but they're not a good team. They're just not.
I was impressed by that guy's name. I thought that was one of the coolest. That's one of the coolest names I've ever heard.
He's got to be good just based on his name.
Who was that safety you always said was marginally better because when he got beat, you would see him in the frame? Who was that?
Yeah, Stuart Schweigert was better than Derek Gibson because at least when Stuart Schweigert got beat, he was still in the camera frame of the picture. Derek Gibson was somewhere having a hot dog or whatever. I would say, Mark, at least my owner wasn't accused of racist comments this week. But also
how dare you, sir?
But also with Mark Davis, that could come at any time. So
Mark, I feel like if he did it, it would be by accident. Mark Davis. What?
The man still thinks the Prince Valiant haircut is in vogue. So
I thought he shaved it. I thought he finally shaved it.
Mark Davis is one of those guys who's going to get caught making racist comments using a word that he didn't know was a racist comment. That's how it's going to unfold for Mark Davis.
It'll be an accident.
He'd be using a slur, but it hasn't been used in 230 years.
Yes, exactly this. Yeah. There's just the Raiders aren't good.
Man.
Nothing happened in that game that I didn't think was going to happen.
They played the Steelers next in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's an interesting game for them to, because I feel like I think that's a win for them. I do. Because the Steelers,
they could be baby hands.
Yeah. Oh.
No, because here's the important number for that game looking ahead. Given the Raiders offensive line, TJ Watt over 3.5 sacks.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's all make a prediction right now.
But Max Crosby against their equally bad offensive line.
Yeah.
But he's the only guy on that defense you got to worry about.
Yeah.
You send a running back or a tight end at him as a supplemental blocker. And I love Max, but he's not Reggie White. He can be neutralized because there's no one else on that defense you have to be concerned about.
Okay. Well, we talked about the Steelers. This category is fugly. The Browns and the Steelers. The Browns from Jump Street just had an awful night.
Good.
Was it the first play from scrimmage that was a pick six?
Yep.
By
13
Deshaun?
seconds in. Yeah.
Deshaun throws a pick six to start the game. Nick Chubb's leg was obliterated.
Oh, yeah. That was horrible.
By a dirty hit, I think. I'll say a dirty hit by Fitzpatrick jumping in the pile at the end of the play.
I was watching the Panthers game when that happened, and I switched over. So I don't want to watch the hit. I don't want to see it. Did he lead with his head? I didn't see any of that. What happened?
He was charging, and then Fitzpatrick came from behind and hit him low.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a nasty injury. His knee is wrecked, basically. Yeah. And it's surgically repaired.
Second time his knee is wrecked.
Right.
Oh, it was the same.
Same one as
Georgia.
Yeah.
So that's not good either. But it was ugly. It was. Really ugly.
I read a description of it, and it reminded me of Napoleon McCallum. True.
Yeah. I thought of that too.
Yeah.
And I seem to have a weird, I don't know if you want to call it luck, providence with these kind of things where I was watching that game and I looked down for 15 seconds and I looked up and it was over. And it's the same. So I didn't see it other than to hear Troy Aikman say, we're not going to show that again.
Right.
And it was the same thing that happened, if you remember, the Kevin Ware injury at the Louisville basketball game in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Same thing. Yes. I was watching that game. I looked down to grab my sandwich. I looked up and it was over. So I don't know what it is. I've missed some of the really bad ones. The McCallum one I saw and then saw again and again.
Yeah, right. Because they kept replaying it.
Because this was before the era of injury sensitivity. The worst, and now I'm on a tangent, the worst replay sequence like that I can remember is it was an Ole Miss game. It may have even been the Egg Bowl. Laquan Treadwell, if you remember him,
yeah,
goes and this is well after it's been established that the replays, particularly Grizzly networks, are not going to show the replay. Laquan Treadwell dives for the pylon in the fourth quarter for what would be the game-tying touchdown. And like, it's one of those plays where it's not clear, like, did the ball hit the pylon and he had control and then he hit the ground and the ball goes out or whatever. So it goes to replay and they replay it a million times. Treadwell breaks his leg on the same play, but you can't like not show the replay because the outcome of the game hinges on the replay. So they show like 47 angles of like the ball like hitting the pylon, and then like you see Treadwell roll over, and then you see his leg kind of separately roll over, and they can't not show it. And that was the worst one in my memory. But there's been some bad ones.
Yeah, was it Willis McGahee that they showed over and over and over again when he like
that one
crashed into the bench that one time?
Well, yeah, I mean, the McGahee injury, I thought it was like a helmet to his knee, and it just kind of looked like that one didn't look
his
that
knee
bad.
hyperextends.
Yeah, right.
It's gross. They showed that a lot, but that was also wasn't that a national championship game? That was
yes, it was against Ohio State.
Yeah, so that was a big game. So the Ware injury is the one that I always think of with his bone popping out. Like
to get back to brighter things, I'd like to think that somewhere Jamar Chase was like sipping a beer, like "fuck you, elves."
Yeah,
he's just with that sign in the Bengals locker. I'm like, yeah, that's it.
I feel bad because Chubb was like the only likable player on the Browns.
I know. So I love Chubb. Yeah, Chubb is great.
And I have a soft spot for Myles Garrett because Mason Rudolph's always been a punk, and I like that. I shouldn't enforce that Myles Garrett swung a helmet at a guy. Mason Rudolph is usually the target. So.
What I think was the most impressive out of this, I mean, the Steelers always, when Tomlin's there, you're always going to have a very solid defense, right? But like the Browns have, in an era where offensive line talent is so minimal, they have 3. What I would consider all pros on that offensive line, and they look like garbage. They were getting shoved back. I mean, they did not. They either collectively all had shit games, or the Steelers had a wonderful defensive game plan.
Yeah, I mean, they were missing their one guy. One of the guys was injured, but yeah, baby hands. All I needed to do was throw that one pass to George Pickens.
Nice pass.
Hell of a one pass looked good. The rest of the night was awful.
Yeah, that was a slog.
He just looks. It just makes me angry when I see him warm up with the gloves on. Like he's got the flowing hair and he's got the headphones and he's got his little gloves. Oh my God, baby hands! You have to get those specially made,
extra small,
in a smaller size
from the children's department.
I don't even hate Kenny Pickett, but I like making fun of his small hands. So. But he had a much better night than I did because the ballad of the 2023 Carolina Panthers is we can't do anything right. The Saints beat us. The offense is so bad. The Panthers offense is awful. The one thing that they could do last year was run the ball. They can't do it. Now they can't do it. They certainly can't pass. Bryce Young can't even do a quarterback sneak. He had to be pulled during quarterback sneaks for Andy Dalton to do them. Did you see that?
That's
not
good optics, right there.
That's a thing. He's too small to be a QB to be the quarterback on the field. The QB sneak. He has to be pulled. He fumbled in the red zone. This game was like 6-3 for 3 quarters, and he fumbled in the red zone after a nice pick.
I don't think the Saints are bad, though. I felt like them keeping it that close was a pretty, I thought that was a pretty big accomplishment. We know the Panthers aren't gonna.
They're not doing anything. We know that, but like, come on, give me some fire. Like, actually try here.
Yeah, he seemed like he was like, toward the end, like he definitely seemed to be like getting more comfortable and at least having a chance to win. They
did score with in junk time. In junk time, they scored.
I said this last week. I love Bryce Young. He's one of my favorite players last year watching college football. I still think I have a lot of faith in him, and a lot of faith in Frank Reich. It's just going to take a while to get this team where it needs to be.
Maybe they just have changed too many things. Maybe that's part of it. Like we've changed everybody.
I agree with everything Mark said, and I seem to be now in a weekly habit of crushing Ryan's hopes and dreams. But I will say, through 2 games, CJ Stroud looks pretty good.
This
And
is
it
what I
hasn't
was
helped-
saying.
It hasn't helped the Texans all that much.
No,
But like,
but
and,
this
and
is
again,
what,
like if you go way back to our draft show, like I think I may have said at the time, I liked Stroud last year more than I like Caleb Williams this year.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But Stroud looks pretty good through 2 games, man.
Yeah, he does. I still think he made the right pick. I really do think the Panthers made the right pick here.
What's
Listen,
frustrating
listen.
is
They
we
both
had a
can be
show
good.
where,
It's-
where I said I like Stroud more than and we can finally just get Stroud and not worry about it.
Listen, let me tell you a story.
Oh,
all right.
no.
All right. The Raiders drafted Robert Gallery, and they could have had Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
So,
And you were very on the Larry train. Like you
And-
were.
and-
Yeah.
yep. And the
I remember that
Raiders
year.
drafted Jamarcus Russell, and they could have had Charles Johnson. So,
If only you would hit the stage that day, Drew. You could
I
have
know.
stopped it.
I think that's
Could've-
that's the frustrating thing for me. It's
oh
like,
my God, why can't I think of his name? Not Charles Johnson. Megatron.
oh, Calvin.
Calvin
Calvin
Johnson. Yeah,
That draft,
Calvin
I've mentioned it before on air,
I know.
has so many Hall of Famers in it.
Which
and
is
we were there.
rough when you miss.
Amazing.
when you have so
Absolutely
many
amazing.
Hall of Famers.
Oh yeah, and then there was also like sprinkled in like Ted Ginn and
Yeah,
you know,
like I said, the
Brady
Chargers
Quinn.
took Buster Davis in the first round of that
Yeah.
draft.
right.
Find me Buster Davis today.
Oh my God.
Bill took beef mode.
Love beef mode.
I love beef mode.
I
And
would
then Paul
love.
plus Lusney in the second round.
Oh boy. I love Paul. Paul was good. I
He was a middle linebacker.
he played a lot. He played for a while. I would love just a game where we are kind of battling and making some throws and doing some stuff where that doesn't happen in 2 weeks.
It'll come in 2 weeks. You just said it's 2 weeks. It'll come.
I know.
With Frank, I have immense confidence in Frank Reich.
I'm
You know,
really
I-
starting to get worried about Frank.
No,
I'm really
I'm-
starting to
I'm-
get worried about it.
I'm thinking of this specific to the Jets, but I think it applies to any team that feels like their quarterback may be underachieving. I just picture like a bunch of Miami Dolphins linebackers sitting at a table that is wreathed in cigar smoke, playing poker with Mike White, who is sitting there saying, "A lot of teams could have had me."
Oh
Mike
God.
fucking White. You got to put some
Mike.
respect on that name.
Fucking White. All right, this was a category we had last year, and it's back, and it's back for the same exact game. Mirror match. The Seahawks and the Lions do it again. The
Yeah,
Seahawks
right.
have a mirror combat when you have Sub-Zero fight Sub-Zero.
One is slightly
And they're
lighter blue.
slightly later. That's what this was again. And it was really
Yes.
fun. Shout out to Jared Goff. I mean, he threw a pick and he wasn't great in this game, but he threw almost 400 pass attempts without throwing a pick.
Mhm.
I mean, that was a bad one. He threw a pick 6, but and also
wonder
shout
how-
out to Tyler Lockett. That guy just all he does is make plays.
Old man Lockett still kicking and
Still out there
kicking
doing
around.
it.
I wonder how Jared Goff's career is gonna how am I gonna look back on Jared Goff? Is gonna be I feel like it's like a Matt Schaub like feeling.
That's
You
a
know?
good name. Yeah.
Right.
Matt Schwab.
Like definitely not embarrassing, but like, not an elite player by any means, but he's hung around like Matt did. So fuck Pete Carroll. I'm gonna get that out of the way.
That
Naturally.
Naturally.
in the clip that I played earlier in the show, I'm talking to America here. Pete Carroll was losing his mind on the sideline, flipping out, running around, but they got the win.
They
The
did.
Lions should have won this game. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, they
Every
should've.
opportunity to win this game, but they didn't do it. It was
Yep.
another exciting one, though. So,
Yeah.
here's one. What is wrong with you, Bengals? They get just dominated by the Ravens.
Well, we know what's wrong with them.
We know what's wrong with
Is-
that.
is it
Yeah,
Burrow
there's no
calf?
great victory.
Yeah.
Somebody get that guy a set of icy hot. My
What-
God.
What bothers me is they should have shut him down week 1 and said, you know what, for 4 games you're not going to play. They're still going to have to do that now, except they're 0-2. Like, I mean, you could have at least gotten some of this out of the way. You probably still would have lost, but it would have been. Now you have to wait even longer before you get like a healthy Joe Burrow. It was just short-sighted.
Who's their backup?
I looked it up and it's embarrassing. I gotta look it up again. Hold on.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
Dave
That's
Klingler.
not good.
Dave Klingler.
Achilles Smith. He's back.
Jake Browning.
Ooh.
Oh, Washington.
Yeah, and that's
Oof.
it. By the way, there is no third.
They might want to get one.
There will be no encore.
You can have Andy Dalton. He's good at QB snakes. You can
Yeah.
have him back.
It is weird to see like him like I saw him just like on the sidelines in that Panthers game, just looking very excited, like he just wanted to get in there again. So,
Yeah.
Listen, he re-aggravated the knee, you know, and that's that type of shit doesn't get better. He's got to be shut down for a little bit if they want to have any chance of this. Now, the good news is they did start 0-2 last year, and they were
Yeah,
fine. So
it didn't matter then.
Yeah.
The other thing that made me think in this game is like some of these teams, like the Eagles, they ran. The Bills, they did that. Some of these other teams not running, like this one, like not running with Joe Mixon inside the goal line and then having to settle for a field goal, like, or running with anybody, I guess. Doesn't matter who it is. But several of these teams, Chargers, same thing, didn't run Josh Kelly inside the goal line at all. Like Chiefs did not run Pacheco, and we'll talk about them, but they did not run Pacheco in the red zone. What are these teams that aren't very good on offense doing, not running the ball inside the fucking 10-yard line? I don't understand. It's not flashy enough. You need to do the carousel and all that.
It's honestly like they talk about this at the college level, I think more than at the pro level, certainly, but like people have gotten so used to running shotgun-based offenses that the quarterback center exchange is no longer a given skill if you're
Sure.
under center.
mm-hmm.
So if you're a team who feels like you've never practiced under center, you're not going to do it in a game for the first time.
And we talked
point.
about this didn't we talk about this last
Yep.
year? There was an article that came out, I forget where it was. I think it was ESPN, about the play action from the actual under center exchange is so much more difficult for defenses to read than the shotgun running
Yes.
and play action. It's infinitely easier to read the shotgun run, which is why it doesn't work that often.
I didn't realize just in my process of watching how rare an under center snap was until I was watching Bills Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a few short yardage plays where Josh Allen was under center. And he looks so incredibly awkward under center.
Yeah.
One, and not because of any ability or lack of ability on his part, just because he's so big and he's practically leaning forward as it is. But it just occurred to me, like, it looks weird to me because I have literally never seen him under center.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
It's
So
rare.
like that's sort of a bygone skill.
Yeah.
Definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Ravens look good. Lamar looked good. For sure. He looked real good. Get right game. The Chiefs beat the Jaguars. Chiefs didn't look great. This was easily winnable for the Jaguars almost the entire day, and they could not figure it out. So Chiefs get right. Kelsey was there. He certainly helped.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Jones looked real good for having
Yes,
not
he did.
practiced.
Right. He looked like a monster again. But
Little-
man alive, the Jags look great in week one. And this one, how many times did they not score with Calvin Ridley in the red zone where he couldn't get his feet down for various obstacles and reasons? He smashed into the goalpost at one point, ripped his pants, had to go to the sideline. There's another one where he had an amazing catch, but he was completely out of bounds. Like, the Jags did not look good in this game.
I'm a little nervous about the Jags. Like I really had them kind of like steamrolling that AFC South. I mean, they had a great first week, but look who they're playing. And now they actually play. And now, granted, it is the Chiefs, so like you got to give it a little bit of leeway here. But they just, it is the Chiefs, but it's also like the Chiefs aren't notoriously known for their great defense. Like a lot of times you can pass on them pretty easily, and they shut them down. So that's a little concerning moving forward. Just kind of curious who the Jaguars play in week 3. They play, oh dear God, there's a bye week. They play the Texans. So they're going to get right next week.
Okay. So it'll all be good. we talked about the best teams in the NFL, and the 49ers certainly probably are the best team, or if not the number one, maybe in the top three. But this category is called Rams cover because the Rams kick a field goal, which doesn't affect anything except for the spread at the end of the game with 4 seconds left.
Did you hear McVay's word
No.
salad that he tried to
No.
explain that? So his reasoning was he didn't want to hurt Stafford's arm by Hail Mary with a Hail Mary throw. But the problem is it still wouldn't have won him the game. Why would he even put him in that position? So very weird. I'm sure the NFL is sweating this one out.
Sean McVay is going to be cornered
I know
in Los Angeles by a group of people.
And all
Like Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Calvin. No, Calvin's excited about it.
So
You got
even
the
though they
cover.
lost, I'm just saying.
Rams still look good.
Rams played
Yeah.
them tough. Rams played
Who's
them
your new
tough.
favorite player in the NFL? That's not a Bill?
Okay,
What-
so
Can you say his name?
I'm going to say it the way it should be said because I did look it up. So I think it's Puka and
Yes.
then Nakoa, I think
Correct.
is how. Okay, there we go.
Yes, Puka Nacua.
Puka Nakua. There you go.
Puka
My new favorite
Nakua,
player.
your new favorite player.
I do
just
love
because
He had,
just
he
because of
broke
his
the rookie-
name.
I love the
He's-
name. I love the name. But he did break the rookie record for most receptions in a single game. It's amazing. He had 15.
And for any NFL player in his first 2 games.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
Wow. That's
New
crazy.
megastar.
New megastar.
To go with megastar Mark. I blessed him.
I think the 49ers just
First him
kind
into
of
this league.
49ers seem very casual about this game. Just like, okay, yeah, you're gonna do some stuff, but here's a little Debo, there's a McCaffrey touchdown. Like, we're not that worried about you.
That's the sign of a dominant team, though. They
Yeah.
can do this so leisurely.
Yeah, it felt easy,
Yep.
even though it was a close game.
Yep.
But all right. Last one. It's a quick one. The Fighting Minshews, the Colts, hold on against the Texans. Anthony Richardson was off to a real nice start, then got a concussion. Then Gardner Minshew had to come in and just kind of hold the fort down against the pretty much hapless Texans.
Mhm.
But CJ Stroud looked good. He threw for
He
over
did.
300 yards. There's just not a lot else there, which
Yeah.
is kind of what we said in the draft episode when he got picked. Like, he could be good still, but there's nothing else there around him, so they're not going to win. And that's kind of what happened here.
The first touchdown pass that Gardner Minshew threw, go back and watch the clip. As he takes the ball off the snap, his happy feet are so ridiculously erratic. I was surprised he was able to get any zip on the ball at all.
He was just excited to be in there.
Like, he
I-
takes the ball, kind of does a river dance, and then hucks it towards the corner. It's unbelievable.
I feel like if there's a spiritual successor to Jay Cutler, it's Gardner Minshew.
It's like the happier version of Smoking Jay,
Right,
though. He's just
right.
too happy.
Yeah, he's very pleased with himself, but there's still a nice level of apathy there, which I appreciate. Stroud, honestly, probably would have won Player of the Week had he actually won.
Won
But
that
they'll never
game,
give it to
yeah.
him if you lose. But
Yeah.
put up great numbers. I do think both things can be true. I think both Bryce Young and CJ Stroud will be very good players in the NFL. They got to build around him. It's not going to be this year.
Yeah,
So.
right. We said that before.
Yeah.
I still think he's good. He might be
Yeah.
better than my quarterback. Oh boy! All right, that's this week's games, and now it's time for segments. But the first one, we're gonna go to a real quick piece of news. Mark, you brought this up. The XFL and the USFL are merging.
Ooh.
Does that mean you have to pick new teams?
I know. I don't know. Now we all know that Drew is a Battlehawks fan.
Till
Tri
you-
Nation.
Honestly, I'm curious about this from like a TV perspective because I'm pretty sure like the XFL I think was on ESPN and I think the other one was on Fox.
NBC.
USFL NBC. Sorry, NBC.
NBC.
Hmm.
So like I'm curious how that works with a merger. I assume you have TV deals that you have to somewhat honor.
redo them. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably redo them.
I mean, honestly, the easiest way here is for them to treat it like AFC, NFC.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
and
right.
NBC would maintain the
Yeah.
rights to the home
Oh.
games of the old USFL teams, and the Disney networks would maintain the home rights to the old XFL teams.
There's got to be though, like the structure of this new league has to change because the USFL was using hubs, so like
Mhm.
the teams weren't playing home games; they were playing in the 8 teams were playing in 4 cities, and like
Right.
that can't exist. You need to be in a home city
City,
just to
yeah.
build interest. So a lot's gonna have to change. I hear we're gonna get like more news about it this week, including like names, what teams are gonna be in it. So it's worth watching, and I think it's good for the sport. I never liked the idea of 2 developmental leagues or 2 spring leagues. Now all the players can go into one. I like the fact that it gives them more jobs. I'm totally cool with it. I feel like there's a space for it in the American sports market, and I'm glad we're getting a little bit of a merger.
Okay, my team is going to be the Michigan Panthers if they remain because they're coached by Jeff Fisher.
Oh, there you go, 8-8.
Never losing.
Of the many possible choices, what city do the Michigan Panthers play out of?
God,
I'm just curious. I've never noticed.
Flint,
I don't know.
Might
I
be.
didn't. Yeah, Grand Rapids.
Dearborn? Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids. Actually, Grand Rapids wouldn't be too.
Yeah, it's not a bad choice.
Yeah,
All right.
I talked about this during the AAF football FUBAR, but I really want to see them put teams in cities that don't have them. I think give San Diego a team.
St. Louis.
I don't think. Yeah, St. Louis got the battle.
Carnation.
Yeah, they should be back. I'm guessing. Drew's got like merchandise for the
I
battle.
do. I have a St. Louis Battlehawks shirt.
Yeah.
I have
man.
yet to buy the. You see a lot of people in their stands that have like the Legend of Zelda shield and Master Sword because that's
Yeah.
kind of what their logo looks like. I have yet to go to that extent, but I do have a Battlehawks shirt.
That's
I
fine.
bought it when I bought it after the XFL in 2020 folded,
Hmm.
thinking those were all going to be sent to like Uganda or whatever in short order. So I had to get one soon. Little did I know they were going to persist.
Here we are. All right, sad boy boat.
Oh,
Okay, this is last week. It was easy. I feel like it was easy last week.
yeah. I mean, the
Sh-
good news is
Sean Payton is
Okay.
Sean Payton back?
we have a repeat
Yes,
performer.
has
It's
to be.
definitely Sean Payton at the
He has to
captain's
be,
weekend.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sean Payton is back
Yes.
on the sad boy boat.
He never left.
He's still there. He might be the new captain.
Yeah, right. Who else? Who else?
Chargers coach Brandon Staley. See a sad boy because the press conference where they asked him about
Yeah, and he flipped out.
you think the Jaguars loss is still affecting you, and he got all upset. Maybe he belongs on there.
Yeah, give him. I'll put him on sad boy. That's
Mhm.
fine. Chubb. I mean, there's that more. I mean, like
Oh,
it's
that's
sad, but
wrong.
like
That's too
no.
sad. That's
yeah,
too
it's
sad.
Too
Mark.
sad. Okay.
Justin Fields,
Yeah, any bear?
Yes, there you
Yeah,
go.
do we have
All
a
right,
bear?
That's 3.
All right,
That's
that's three.
the ghost of Sid Luckman.
Ah.
Oh man.
What about Zach Wilson? He was a frequenter last year.
I don't
What
know,
about
I
Bill
don't-
Belichick? He seemed like a real sad boy throwing down
He's a
that
grumpy
flag.
boy. He's
And-
like trailing him in like a
Oh, okay.
in like a donut. He's not on the
It's not
boat.
him.
He's
He's trailing
Don't worry, see,
behind.
this all plays forward. Soon enough, Mark, he's going to name his horse his offensive coordinator.
yeah, right.
Steve, move over.
Declare war in England when he goes over there.
Oh man. Any Browns? What about that Cardinals coach?
Oh yeah, yeah. His post game was sad. It was just
He's a sad boy
yeah.
in the truest sense.
right.
Is Caleb Williams' dad on the sad boy boat?
No, he's happy.
He's just got like beads of sweat running down his head right now as he looks at the standings.
All right. Broadcasting moments of the week. We always put them on our Twitter or X or whatever the fuck you want to call it. We've got the Belichick throwing down the flag. We've got the Mike McDaniel running away from the cameraman. We talked about a lot of these. We've got the I'm talking to America here guy, the ref. We didn't talk about this guy. During the Dolphins game, jersey was spotted in the stands. Customized jersey for the Dolphins. It said days sober 00. I thought that was kind of fun. Here's one. Ohio State quarterbacks are 0-6 in the NFL this season. That's
Oh no.
CJ Stroud, that's Justin Fields, and also Joe Burrow. You count all three of them, you're 0-6.
What a man. Somebody in Michigan made that one up.
We talked about how bad my team is. How about Bryce Young lining up under the guard and having to be pushed over by Miles Sanders at one point? Like, no, you need to be under the center, my guy.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of Bryce Young defending, but I mean, it is still the sec. I don't know. I'm not.
Yes. So
He's
that is
fine. Stop making fun of him.
I'm just
That's
gonna, I'm just gonna slip in there. He's 5'10".
yeah. His dad. I kept getting annoying messages from Greg last night about how Bryce Young's dad is bigger than regular Bryce Young, and he's more jacked, and they should put Bryce Young's dad out instead. Like, it's not fair. Come on, Greg. You still have Tannehill.
Caleb Williams' dad.
Yeah, you still have Tannehill. Oh my God. Yeah, Caleb Williams' dad has to get more jacked. All right, that's broadcasting moments. Greg's bets. I actually have Greg's bets, which I can share right now, I believe. Hold on.
Ooh, fancy.
Let me find that real quick. Here it is.
That's a dick pic.
Here we go. Greg's bets are here for week 3 last week. Real quick recap. He went 4 of 6. Yeah, you heard me right. He picked 6 games. He last minute baby hands bet, which he lost. Lost on the Steelers. So
I feel like okay, I'm about to say I'm glad you have the 0 ambient bets because I feel like that's important.
We have to keep track of that.
Which of these are ambient bets?
We have to keep track of that. It might be just like a running tally. Like, I don't know if we need to star the specific one because it's kind of an in the moment thing. So we'll just keep track of that. Vikings -1 versus Chargers.
Okay. I like that. Yep, I like that.
Packers -2 against Saints.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take that.
Titans +3.5 over the Browns.
I think I've said it to everybody in text. I love this bet. I can't believe
Great
the Titans are +3.5 on this. I feel like Watson could get suspended because we didn't even talk about that. He shoved that ref.
Right.
You know, I think that's a possibility. Obviously, with Chubb out there, I'm amazed it's still 3.5. Get it
Seahawks.
while you can.
Here's one I like. Seahawks -5.5 versus the Panthers. Bet it. It's not gonna go well against the Seahawks, I don't think. Bears +13 versus the Chiefs.
I still wouldn't take that.
Yeah, I disagree, Greg. I'm with you on a lot of your
that
bets,
he's doing
that
that.
one.
I love that he's doing that. That is so funny to me.
I see it in my mind. For anybody who's not seen the video, I feel like Greg is making these bets and then giving the face that he's making in his little bio picture.
Yes.
After each one.
We will post the Greg's Bets graphic every week.
Yeah, right.
As long as I remember. There you go. There's Greg's Bets.
I love it.
He's off to a great start, though.
He is.
I mean,
he's doing
he really is.
God, he's on fire.
He's on fire. All right. It's time for the Stripe Spiral, where we talk about college football, Drew.
Oh, boy. So we'll start the week. And I promise this segment will be shorter this week. We'll start the week with our weekly check-in on Nebraska.
Yes.
Nebraska wins. They beat Northern Illinois.
Okay.
So a bad day for the MAC. Here's your silver lining, though, Ryan. Not much of a win because Northern Illinois lost their cupcake game to Southern Illinois. So that gives you an idea of the kind of opponent that we're talking about. But Nebraska now 1-2 on the season.
Right.
Texas A&M goes down and beats UL Monroe, notable because this means Jimbo Fisher staves off Charlie Weiss dead money for another week. And because if you've looked, UL Monroe, the Warhawks, they've taken like an old Wade Flaherty San Jose Sharks approach to helmets. Their helmet now looks like it's eating their face. It's kind of a cool look. It looks like the front of a painted like old P40. It's not a bad look. Go take a look at it if you get a chance. Syracuse now 3-0 with a win over Purdue.
Okay,
Mizzou,
I like it.
Mizzou beats Kansas State, who's one of those teams who's good, but you're never sure how good. They lose to Mizzou, who's not very good, on a last-second field goal. In possibly the most spurrier game of the week, Florida takes down Tennessee, which means which bowl is Tennessee going to, Mark?
Citrus Bowl.
Thank you, because you can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT. I feel bad for Indiana State because they are not a FBS team.
Right.
They were the cupcake game for Indiana 2 weeks ago and got thoroughly drubbed, and then last week were the cupcake game for Ball State and got thoroughly drubbed.
Ooh.
To literally quote Rick Pitino, Larry Bird is not walking through that door for Indiana State these days. South Alabama puts it to Oklahoma State. So 1, #FunBelt. 2, Ryan, how old was Mike Gundy once upon a time?
He was.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Thank you. South Alabama is actually decent, but this is a bad look because Oklahoma State in particular views themselves as like the last vanguard of the Big 12 because all the other like traditional Big 12 programs are leaving. You think, okay, TCU went to the national championship game last year, but they've bounced around in a bunch of different conferences before landing in the Big 12. So like the last of the big, serious, old guard Big 12 teams just got thumped by South Alabama. Alabama apparently doesn't have a quarterback.
Yeah. What the hell's going on there?
Wow.
Well, it's like Casey Stengel. If you have 3 first basemen, you have no first baseman. If Alabama has 3 quarterbacks, they have no quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
On a pure talent standpoint, Milroe should be their quarterback, but he has been given multiple opportunities and not look good. Texas got into a grinder. They won the game, but they got into a grinder with Wyoming, who it turns out might be good because Wyoming beat Texas Tech. Not that Texas Tech is any great shakes, but that's a very small team beating a very large team.
Mm-hmm.
Boston College takes Florida State, who I had as the number 1 team in the country, to the limit. Boston College, though, in the red bandana game, if you don't know the story of the red bandana game, go ahead and look it up. It's an amazing story. But as a result, BC historically always plays up in that red bandana game. So they take Florida State to the end. It says something that Florida State managed to get out of that game with a win.
Florida State has that, like I was watching a little bit of that. They have a giant receiver.
Yes, they do.
I can't get over how big that guy is.
He reminds me of, I'm not going to remember the kid's name, but back in the early aughts, Purdue had a wide receiver who was literally 6'8".
Yeah.
And like, not that this kid is that big, but he reminds me of that.
I think when I saw it, I think he said he was 6'6", and he ran a pretty decent 40. So, I mean, just on talent alone, that dude's got to be considered a first rounder. I mean, you just don't get that in the NFL.
No, because it's like Keyshawn Johnson, right? Coming out of college, like nobody thought Keyshawn Johnson was going to beat anybody on a 9 route, but as soon as you were in the red zone, you just threw it to the corner and he'd outjump somebody.
Yep,
same thing. And then the Colorado game. Anybody watch the Colorado game?
I did. Yep.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Against my better judgment, I stayed up all the way through double overtime and watched the end.
Wow.
And there were. I texted Mark about this. There were a million things in that game that made me angry. Very few of them having to actually do with Colorado or any of the way Colorado presents.
You had such a great point. Well, I'm sure you're talking about it
except for the one thing Colorado did that pissed me right off was like, I understand you've been bad for a real long time, and now you're good for the first time in a long time, but don't rush the field when you beat an unranked Colorado State team that, by the way, has been irrelevant longer than you.
Yeah, right.
Like that's anyway. Woo. There's a million things that made me aggravated in this game. Colorado State with 170 yards in penalties, including 9 personal fouls, which starts to feel a little bit intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not the ones late where they get called for a face mask or whatever, but there's some of those late hits, including the crappy hit on Travis Hunter. Yeah. Like that, you hesitate to say that somebody was telling the guys go out there and hit somebody late, but you do think they might have been told go out and show Colorado that you're here to fight.
Right.
And that's how that got interpreted. But what really aggravated me, and you see this all the time in the college game, and it bit Colorado State in this game, was you have an under-talented team that is a super big underdog against a team of much greater potential. And they are either controlling the game, which Colorado State did by virtue of like killing Colorado with 1,000 shallow crosses that they couldn't cover with their underneath linebackers. And then they get into the late part of the game and they get conservative for no reason. And it causes them to lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a late in the fourth quarter, there's 2 minutes and change left. Colorado State had like 4th and 2 roughly at midfield and punted. And like, no, like
Yeah.
they haven't defended your shallow cross all night, and your inside off guard running game has been pretty good. They don't know which one you're going to do. Like, you're Colorado State. Take the opportunity to win the game while you can, because if you lose the game there, nobody cares.
Mhm.
But you could have won the game right there, and you decided to punt. And granted, their punter drops a dime on like the 2-yard line that goes out of bounds. But Shedeur Sanders is really effing good.
Yeah.
And then Colorado State gets back on defense. And what do they do? What every under-talented team does, and you see this even in the pros, they go into a soft shell zone and immediately give up a 98-yard touchdown drive to tie the game. Never mind, there's a 2-point conversion out of that. I understand all that. But, like, it drives me bonkers when a team that has controlled the game or at least remained competitive in the game doing one thing all night then immediately stops doing it because they're afraid they're going to lose the game if they make the wrong decision. You are going to lose that game by not making that decision.
Yep.
And, you know, in the end, so that drove me just bonkers. And then in the second overtime, Colorado State scores. In the first overtime, Colorado State scores, has the opportunity to go for 2 in the win, and kicks the extra point to extend the game to a second overtime. Again, go for 2 in the win.
Yeah, at this point, right, against a
Right.
team that everybody's paying attention
Like,
to. This is your opportunity. Yeah.
And you've got to know, if you're Colorado State, that there's more talent on the other sideline than you have on your sideline. Don't extend the game. Don't give them more opportunities. Win it or lose it right here on your own merit. And it's just, they totally lost any concept of aggressiveness in their coaching decisions late in the game. And it drives me crazy because you see it in college football with potential upsets all the time. And it lets top-ranked teams get back into games that they shouldn't win. But what do I think about Colorado? I think the next 2 weeks are going to be very telling. They go to Oregon next week, who's a top 10 team, has an extraordinarily fast, disciplined defense. They also have Bo Nix at quarterback, who can be great, but also has one of those Bo Nix might not know how to play football games.
Yeah, right.
He's good to drop a couple of those, you know, as his previous fans at his previous locations would tell you. But like, they face Oregon, who's really good, and then they get USC at home. If Colorado beats Oregon, that game in Boulder will be absolutely must-watch television.
Yeah.
But you know, you saw it. If Colorado State can figure out that they can beat Colorado just running shallow crosses under their 2-deep zone, then a team that has 4 and 5-star level recruits will also notice this and will find other ways to beat them. Especially because the other takeaway here is Colorado's offensive line did not look good.
Mm-hmm.
They did not look good. And Dion, for his part, has been very upfront about the fact the entire season that he doesn't feel like his team is ready for that level of competition yet. He has said multiple times, I need 6 or 7 more dudes before that. Like, this year for him is his audition for recruits that he wants next year, or for guys in the transfer portal that he can get next year. And he knows that. I don't know that the hype train realizes that, but he knows that. But they've got 2 extraordinarily hard games in the next 2 weeks, and their schedule doesn't get a ton easier after that. They play Oregon State, they play UCLA, they play Washington State, and then they get Utah at the end of the season, all of whom are dangerous teams.
Yeah, very.
There's still Colorado's a good team. I'm not taking anything away from them, and I don't dislike them, but they could easily finish this season somewhere in the 5-7 to 7-5 range, which by their standard in recent decades would still be a tremendously successful season for them. But I don't see them getting through that gauntlet undefeated or even with 1 loss.
I mean, a part of me thinks that this season, I can't imagine how it's not. I mean, I think they will level out, but how can it not be viewed as nothing but a giant success for Deion
Absolutely.
Sanders? Because, like, look how many eyeballs are on this program when nobody gave a shit about this team last year.
A program that won 1 game last year.
Right.
Literally won.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
amazing.
and had been, you know, Colorado as recently as 4 months ago was the team that everybody was saying was going to get left behind in realignment because nobody wanted them.
Right.
You know, now they're going to go back to the Big 12. They're the big flashy new thing. And listen, you know, if they lose the next couple of games, or regardless of what happens, they've got they've sort of got the built-in, well, Travis Hunter didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's the future still looks bright for Colorado, but these next 2 games could be rough, considering that TCU, you know, the upset over, I'm not taking anything away from the upset over TCU And, then they paved Nebraska, who, as we've discussed, isn't very good. But, Colorado State definitely exposed some things that some other teams are going to be able to expose to a greater degree.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, sorry, one more thing. The big game this weekend is Notre Dame and Ohio State. There's a bunch of good ranked matchups this weekend, including Ole Miss at Bama is going to be a hell of a game because 1, Alabama, nobody knows what they are, and 2, wouldn't Lane Kiffin love to shove it down Nick Saban's throat?
Right.
But the game is Ohio State Notre Dame, and I honestly don't know what to expect from that game because Notre Dame looks really effing good. Mm-hmm. And Ohio State so far has been unchallenged and didn't look great in their first game, but they haven't played anybody of consequence. So we'll see what happens.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see that for sure. And I'm excited about Syracuse being 3-0. Yeah. That'll go away.
That quarterback, there's a lot going on there. For good or bad. That man is very confusing. Yeah,
he is. He's very
confusing. If Josh Allen had like a parasitic twin.
I was going to say, he reminds me of Josh Allen, but not a good version.
Right, but
like the dark dimension in Star Trek. That's kind of what it reminds me. The evil
bearded Josh Allen.
The bearded evil Josh Allen. Evil Spock. I did, when you were talking about tallest wide receivers, looked up the tallest wide receivers in NFL history. And a lot of them are people Plaxico Burress, Vincent Jackson. One made me laugh, though. A guy I thought was going to be good. Ramses Barden. Remember that guy?
No,
Cardinals, right?
I think he was a Cardinal and a Giant at one point.
I have no
6'6". He was massive.
Wow.
He was not good in the NFL. Harold Carmichael.
I was going to say Harold Carmichael was 6'7", I think.
6'8", 225
6'8".
pounds.
Jeez.
Wow.
He was very good.
And that was in an era where you didn't have wide receivers that were shaped like that. They all looked like Fred Biletnikoff, and they had enough pine tar on to, stop a bullet.
Yes. All right. Football FUBAR time. Mark?
Yeah.
Who you got this week?
Well, the funny thing is, he's been brought up in this podcast.
Tim Tebow?
This edition. So, the Saints have started off pretty well, right? They went 2-0 under the watchful eye of Derek Carr, who's been quietly efficient this entire year. I think, Drew, you were talking about how you liked him in New Orleans, and you felt like
I'm a Derek Carr apologist.
Yep. So, and he's been doing very well. I wouldn't say he's doing anything like exceedingly well, but he's an excellent game manager. But here's the thing: it's a good thing they have him, because if he goes down, his backup might be a little bit distracted by the bounty of seafood restaurants in New Orleans and studying his playbook. That's right, gentlemen. Open up your Uber apps and protect your crab legs. Today we'll be inducting famous Jameis Winston. That's right.
How has he not gotten in until now? What in the world?
So, background on Jameis. Growing up in Bessemer, Alabama, I believe I'm pronouncing that right.
Hometown of Bo Jackson.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I had no idea. Considered, much like Bo, considered an elite athlete in both football and baseball. So he was regarded as the top overall quarterback prospect in the 2020 or 2012 high school football class, and was heavily recruited by everybody. Winston eventually committed to FSU, and shortly thereafter was actually drafted by the Texas Rangers in the 15th round of the Major League Baseball draft. And the Rangers, I found this little thing. The Rangers offered him a contract, but they said it's a standing offer. So you go play football. You see if you like that better. This contract will always be there for you. And I thought that was kind of different. I don't remember a lot of teams negotiating like that. Winston never did sign with the Rangers. He eventually, after the freshman year at FSU, decided, football is where he wanted to be. Much like last week's induction of Shockey, Winston's on-field production never questioned. Okay, he helped lead the 2013 FSU Seminoles to an undefeated 13-0 season. He capped it off with a win over Auburn in the BCS National Championship game. Along the way, listen to this. Listen to the awards that he won in 2013. ACC Offensive Player of the Year, ACC Player of the Year, AP Player of the Year, Davey O'Brien Award winner, Manning Award winner, Walter Camp Player of the Year, and of course the Heisman Trophy, which he beat out some pretty big megastars like AJ McCarron and Jordan Lynch. So, also in the championship,
college AJ McCarron was a whole different thing. Don't discredit pro AJ McCarron. College AJ McCarron was a baller.
I knew that would get you. Also funny, the 2013 game-winning touchdown that he threw went to Kelvin Benjamin, who went to, obviously FSU. And I have no proof of this, but I assume he ate the football afterwards. So anyway, moving on.
He was a Panther. Yeah. I lived through that.
Did he eat a lot of footballs there?
Maybe.
Wasn't he the one who had the scouting write-up coming into the draft that said Kelvin Benjamin is fast like dial-up internet? I'm pretty sure he was.
Man filled out a uniform.
He was a Bill too, wasn't he? He was a
yes,
Bill.
they traded him, right? And then he was actually Josh Allen's, like, his rookie year. That was the receiver he had to throw to.
Jesus. He was wide. Wide catch radius.
So anyway, Jameis in 2013. The following year, he came back to FSU, and he led to a 12-1 record. His only loss his entire college football career came against Oregon in the semifinal of the college football playoffs. Collected another gaggle of awards that year, but he also started collecting a good amount of problems off the field. You see, gentlemen, Jameis like crab legs. So enough to steal them from a Tallahassee public store. So now, why he thought he was a Heisman Trophy winner at this point? It's not like this was done before this. He was a Heisman Trophy winner and decided to steal seafood from a Publix, which he got kicked out of the store, and FSU did their best to sweep it all under the rug. Now, this is something I didn't know. In 2013, Winston had some issues with a local Burger King on campus. So the story is he came in, ordered no food, and instead used ketchup cups to fill soda with, to go to the soda machine and filled like shots of soda with ketchup cups. The person behind the counter says, "Hey man, you can't do that." So he says, "Oh, can I get some water?" She gives him a cup of water and he goes back to the soda fountain. Once again, he has won the Heisman at this point.
Oh my God.
Just very strange behavior for this man. The police were called because he was making a disturbance after, they told him don't use that, and he caused a disturbance, and police showed up. FSU swept this under the rug. You'll notice a pattern here. He's lucky he didn't see the fish sandwich. That's all I'm going to say there. So now we all know Jameis now. He's dabbling in strange food-related crimes with no victims other than a crustacean or two. This is where this induction takes a turn, unfortunately. I don't want to get dark with it. I'm going to kind of brush over this, but I wanted to paint some of these allegations. So in the same year, a Florida State attorney announced that they were opening a sexual assault investigation in Jameis for an incident that allegedly occurred with a woman from Tallahassee. What followed really is an absolute mess of lawsuits, counter lawsuits, claims of police negligence, claims that FSU simply didn't care about the severity of the claims because they allowed Jameis to keep playing while this investigation was going on. And they have a very public policy of not letting any player who's currently under investigation play. Apparently that didn't apply to Jameis, so did not paint them in the greatest light. So if you're Jameis and there's an ongoing investigation, you probably want to keep a low profile, right? How about getting up on a table in the middle of your student union and screaming, "Fuck her right in the pussy," to somebody who you're having apparently a pretty strong disagreement with? So after that incident, FSU had enough. All right. Even though Jameis was a star player on their team, they decided to hit him with a maximum penalty. That's a lie. They let him play. They suspended him for 1/2 against Clemson and then let him come right on back. So not a good look for them. The case was eventually settled out of court after a very lengthy lawsuit. And once again, another counter lawsuit. FSU settled with the accuser by paying $950,000 and agreed to conduct 5 years of sexual awareness programs. It, however, did not admit liability in the settlement. Okay. Now, FSU came out of this looking pretty bad, but luckily there was an NFL team right down the road that also didn't seem to care about sexual assault accusations, because the Buccaneers, who took Jameis number 1 in the 2015 draft, proclaimed a new era of Bucs football. I mean, Jameis had some strange behavior and documented sexual assault allegations, but he said he was sorry, guys. He said he was sorry. That's got to be worth something, right?
Boy.
And Jameis repaid this confidence by groping an Uber driver in 2016, which the Tampa Bay Buccaneers then attempted to sweep under the rug, but too much light was on it. It eventually came out. The NFL suspended him in the first 3 games of 2018. And since then, he's been kind of quiet, other than that 130 interception on the field performance he had in 2019, where he's been regulated to backup status in New Orleans. So that might be a good thing, though, because the more he's distracted by seafood, the less he's going to get distracted by other things. So Football Fubar welcomes Jameis Winston into its ranks.
We talked about this before, but his 30th pick was a pick six. And that always cracked me up.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch the tape of the Oregon game.
Mm-hmm.
He has the most amazing turf monster fumble in that game. It's like he's rolling around and some Oregon dudes are chasing him, and like he starts to stumble and goes to throw the ball, and that shit just goes backwards, and like he ends up ass over tea kettle, but nobody touched him. He just sort of loses all bodily control. Go back and look at it.
I have to check that out. Yeah.
Just go to YouTube and put in like Jameis Winston Oregon fumble. It'll come up. It's a bonkers play.
When I was doing this research, I obviously make fun of the crab legs a lot, but I had no idea about going to the Burger King and just getting shots, ketchup cup shots of soda.
Yeah, that happened.
What the hell?
Oh my God. Oh, Jameis. I also like this. Also makes me laugh. I know he's not a good guy, but it makes me laugh. This offseason when he could have maybe gotten a starting job somewhere else, and he's just like, nah, I'm good. I'll just stay here.
I've long
I have
believed,
no interest in doing that.
we may have even talked about it. I've long believed that Jameis and the Saints are like that bad couple that break up, but then realize that like nobody else wants to deal with their bullshit, so they end up back together again.
Mm-hmm.
He's there forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's happy there, man.
Oh God. All right. We got game balls. Everybody's going to give out a game ball. You got one for me, Mark?
TJ Watt. I mean, all-time leading sack now for the Steelers. I mean, that's amazing, especially considering how great some of the Steelers defenders have been over the years. So props to him. Pretty much in the first two games. I mean, obviously the first game didn't go his way, but he still had 3 sacks or something like that, I think, against the Niners. And then just completely dominated in this game was a big reason they won over the Browns. So, TJ Watt.
All right. Drew, you got a game ball?
I originally was going to go with Missouri's kicker for burying a 60-yard field goal in a college game to take down a ranked team. But instead, because I watched most of the Army UTSA game on Friday, again, because I'm a loser, the same reason I watched that UMass New Mexico State game, I am going to give my game ball to Army wide receiver Isaiah Alston, who is a junior and became only, I believe, the 9th or 10th wide receiver in the history of Army football to have 1,000 receiving yards in his career.
None of this newfangled passing in Army. I'll give you 20.
All right. I'm giving mine to Tyler Lockett. We talked about him earlier. Just,
Old man Lockett.
He's just still out there doing stuff, scoring game-winning touchdowns, waving goodbye to fans. You know, he was hurt. I can't remember if it was that game or the game before. He was injured, came back in. Like, he's just a tough guy who's always making plays, even in year whatever this is now, 10 or 8. I don't know.
He seems kind of like nebulous. Like, you could tell me Tyler Lockett's been in the league 6 years. I'm like, that seems about right. Or you could tell me he's been in the league 16 years. I'm like, yeah, that seems about right.
And like everybody was like, oh, he's going to be useless with Geno Smith, which obviously Geno proved several people wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But no, he's still good. All right. We're going to do a plug before we get out of here. Got any plugs? We're working on our next TGIF episode. It's not out yet. So stay tuned. We're working on that next week, I believe. So stay tuned for that. Any other plugs?
Coming next week on my entirely too often neglected by me music blog. My colleague and I will have probably joint competing reviews of the new Graveyard album. If you've never listened to Graveyard, he and I think they might currently be the best active band in the world.
Wow.
They're kind of the Swedish version of Led Zeppelin. They have 5 albums to this point that are dynamite. We have the advance of their 6th, which is aptly just called 6. And we will releases on the 26th. We will have our reviews posted early next week.
Awesome.
Very cool. Got to listen to that. Maybe we need new theme music. We got to reach out to them.
Yeah.
All right. We're out of here. We'll be back next week for week 3. Keep an eye on Greg's bets. We'll post that on our social media channel so you can follow along with all of Greg's bets. All right. We'll see you next week. Peace out, everybody.